What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cross Platform Podcast, episode 6, I believe. With me, as always, Gordy Mills.
Hey.
Mike on Skype.
How's it going, guys?
And I'm that one, Heath. And we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we did this week, if anybody did anything exciting. The only exciting thing that happened to me this week is my dog brought home 2 strays. She's done this about 3 or 4 times. I have a deck in my backyard, and I tie her up on like a long leash, and she kind of runs around there and does her own thing until she gets tangled up. And I'm sitting there, and I have like a big, sliding glass door so I can see her. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see a bunch of movement, and I look over, and there are just 2 strange dogs staring at me through my door, and my dog tangled up on the porch, freaking out, trying to jump on them.
Nice.
It was like a pit mix and this other just mutt. I had no idea what it was. And I opened the sliding door, and they just walked right in.
So where are they now? Did you find the owners of them?
We'll get to that. But they both had horse blankets on for dogs. They both had dog jackets.
Okay.
So obviously they were somebody's pets.
Yeah.
Came in, and one of the dogs had a collar on, and I tried to get it off to see if there was a tag on it, because the dog was just jumping around going crazy. So I got the collar off, but there were no tags or no collar on the other dog, the pit mix. And then I went outside to try to bring my dog in, but as soon as I opened the door, one of the dogs ran out and was just gone into the night. So I still had the pit mix, who was the sweetest girl pit I've ever come in contact with.
Huh.
She just running around, got a drink of food, gave her a little bit of food, got a drink of water. Then she decided she was tired and curled up on my lap and fell asleep on the couch with her head in my lap.
Oh, wow.
But I called the Humane Society, and it took them 2 hours to send somebody out, but I don't know how many people they have roaming the streets.
Right.
And then I posted on the Pet FBI website on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I guess within 15 minutes of them posting the picture, they found the owner to that dog, and I guess somebody had found the other dog, and they were both in the same shelter. So the owner found the dog, so it was a happy ending.
That's good.
All around. I guess they got fined for roaming pit bulls. There's a fine along with that.
Yeah.
And I guess there's some Rescue Pit Society of Columbus that actually paid the fine for them.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's really
cool.
Yeah,
it ended up being, a happy ending.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, I had the last 12 days off of work, and today, being Monday, was my first day back.
Uh-huh.
That was kind of tough, but it was a great time off of work. Saw a lot of family, ate a lot of food.
That's a long Thanksgiving holiday.
It was really long. Yeah. Well, my dad drove up from Florida the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So he was up here, and I was just, spending as much time with him as I could. He stayed with my sister, so I drove over there almost every day. He came over to my house some days, helped me out with some projects on things that I wasn't too sure of. Built a lot of stuff. Not while he was here, but
Right.
did also build a lot of stuff.
I may be in the minority, but 12 days off sounds awful to me. I can't go that long without working. It drives it, because I end up doing nothing.
I worked.
It drives me crazy.
I did plenty.
Yeah.
I just didn't go to my job.
Sure.
I dream of 12 days off. That would be so nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Anything exciting happen with you?
Nothing too noteworthy. I just I crashed my drone, and then I fixed it. That was about it.
I told you. Oh no,
How'd you crash it?
You have to try to crash drones.
It's part of the learning curve. And dude, this thing, it flies itself, but I was kind of being stupid.
Mm.
Well, yeah, it
I
doesn't
set up
avoid obstacles. It keeps its elevation, so you don't have to, if you let off the controller, it's not going to come crash into the ground.
Right.
But if you fly it into a wall, it's not going to stop itself.
Well, sure.
The new ones will, but this one won't.
Yeah, so I set up a big inflatable Christmas decoration in my front yard, and I was trying to like rotate around it to take a little video,
Mm.
and I misguessed how close I was to the bushes, and yeah,
Oh,
smacked it.
I thought you were gonna say you like took off Rudolph's head or something like that with the propellers.
Oh man, that
Oh
would
no.
have made it a much better story. No, that's so you fixed it. Was there a lot to fix?
No, just a little piece of plastic broke, so I glued that on, and then I just was mainly checking to make sure everything was safe, because this thing weighs 2.5 pounds,
Yeah,
and it goes up to 400 feet.
Mhm.
I don't want that falling out of the sky because I missed a screw.
Right.
So I'm kind of being like overly cautious because
right.
I don't want to like whack somebody's car or you know
It'll
even
go a lot
perhaps
higher
hit
than
somebody. That'd be
400 feet.
horrible. Huh?
Just so you know,
It'll
it will go a lot higher than 400.
Oh no,
this
I know it'll go a lot higher than 400, but the FAA says I cannot go higher than 400.
right. Y-
Now, you were telling me about a license, weren't you?
I
That
have my FAA license.
won't that allow you to go higher?
No, you're still stuck at 400 feet.
Is
You
there
would
an
have to. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to have a 107, which means you have a commercial license, and then you would have to put in a request for a waiver for height. So, like, say I'm gonna go film a house and I want to be 700 feet in the air. I'd have to call the FAA, tell them what day I want to do it on. They would give me a waiver good for probably a week or so. And then if I got caught, I wouldn't get in trouble.
Hmm.
Okay,
Didn't know
Or,
drones were so
or I can just
complicated.
take the limit off, fly that high anyways, and then just hope nobody catches me.
right.
Right.
Now I guess the one thing that the limit you can't take off, um, so I've heard, and I don't know if it's like this with the Phantom, but there is a different brand. I don't know who makes it, but if you're within, is it a mile of an
It's
airport?
5 miles.
5 miles of an airport,
Oh yeah.
it will not let you fly it. Like you go to take off, it won't throttle up, it won't do anything.
The motors won't even turn on.
That
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
w- that makes complete
Well, I
sense.
know, but that's
They,
technology is
I mean,
terrifying.
it uses GPS.
Right.
These things are cool.
Oh, I
Like
know. They're computers.
you're not
I get
supposed to
it.
fly it out like beyond line of sight, but they have the capability now, being first person where
Mhm.
you actually have a view of the camera. And does that one have light bridge?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Have you done
you can take it like over a mile away.
right. Have you done much photography with
Three
it yet? Have you been
3.1 miles to be
Ooh.
yeah.
exact.
Wow. Have you doing much
Um,
photography with it yet?
I have been playing around. I'm not a big photographer personally, so getting used to all the settings
Mhm.
is pretty steep learning curve.
Sure.
Yeah.
I haven't come up with anything too jaw dropping yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I downloaded trials for like Lightroom, which
Okay.
is awesome software, but I have no idea how to use it.
Yeah. Welcome to my entire life. I have such awesome software on my computer and I have no idea
You
how
want
to
to
use
see
most of
some
it.
really cool drone footage? If you have time to go on YouTube, check out Casey Neistat. He
Oh, dude, that guy is crazy, man.
have you seen his videos? Like, have you seen his footage?
I've seen a lot of videos where he crashes them.
Well, yeah, he does crash them. He had a Mavic Pro. He got one basically at release. They announced it, and then he had one like the next day, and he crashed it into the Hudson River before they even were available to the public.
All right. All right.
But he was saying it was by far his most favorite drone.
Yeah.
The the Mavic is amazing. The only problem is it's hard to get a hold of, and it's like $1,200.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how much that Phantom was when it was brand new.
I'm good.
If
Yeah,
you
very
got it
true.
with a radio, which like yeah, the new one you need a radio, the new
I'll
Mavic.
stick I'll stick to my $15 plastic helicopters.
Yeah, the $30
The
micro drone that
Yep.
like does flips.
That's all
Yeah,
I
it
want.
flips.
That's all I need. That's
It doesn't have a camera, but it flips.
something to terrify my dog and that's I'm good. I don't need anything else. I had one of those little just like, they're what,
Yeah,
6 inches long.
yeah.
Man, she had the time of her life chasing that thing around up until the point where she caught it. Then she wouldn't go anywhere near it because it kind
Oh,
of
because it tore up her
it kind
mouth.
of clipped her in the side of the head.
Yeah.
But no, Well, that's cool. I mean, yeah, we need to get into the underground drone racing scene next. I feel is our next move.
Oh, you know what? Those guys have skill that is insane.
Yeah,
I would
I've been
not even
watching
be able to compete.
some of the
I think I
tournaments or
I
whatever.
think I'd rather get into the underground paintballing scene personally.
That's a whole
I
nother thing.
just I just heard about today um a bunch of police officers and their friends get together and do some pretty serious paintballing.
Yeah.
I know one of them. I was just hearing about this today. There's a school down in like the bottoms that's getting torn down. So it's still standing, but it's going to be torn down.
Yeah.
Everything of value has been removed from the school, and so they let them in there to play. So these guys were playing like paintball war games inside an old school.
Okay, one, I would not go to the bottoms with anything that looked like a gun.
But you're with like 40 cops.
With paintball guns. What do you
I'm sure they've got their real ones
Yeah,
too.
that's probably true. Uh yeah, I would do that. Go I don't know if you need to break in, quote unquote, to the old Cooper Stadium. Go run around there
Oh,
and
man, that'd be fun.
yeah. That's a for those of you who are not in Columbus. It's basically our minor league baseball team's old stadium, which they basically just abandoned. So
Yeah.
it's like high grass in the fields, but the stadium is still standing there, just all kind of uninhabited.
And the grass in that field is taller than the grass on The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I really that's true. I really
And that's
do.
about how long.
Right.
That's about
Yeah,
like
it's been
that part closed around the same time the show started.
That's true. Yeah, I'd love to go down there and just kind of walk around.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm curious if we could even get in. If it doesn't look like it's fenced off or
I don't know.
anything, or if it's just a bunch of homeless people, tent
I,
city out
yeah,
there.
I don't know if I'd want to try.
Because that's in a pretty rough part of town too.
Right. That's
Um,
that's a part of town where like you don't want to end up with a flat tire on the side of
right,
the highway
right.
over there.
Yeah, it was always a crapshoot going to games over there.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move on to our first show topic, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about the season 1 finale of Westworld.
Oh my god.
Just like, I mean, I know you said this to me, but this is probably one of the most satisfying season finales. It is like the absolute opposite of Walking Dead season finale last year.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Walking Dead like left you going, what the hell just happened? What, and then you're just like scratching your head. You had so many questions that were left unanswered.
I was thinking about
And
that too, because a season finale, a season finale, not a series finale, is supposed to leave you with a cliffhanger.
well,
But people were so
I don't-
angry about the Walking
I
Dead
don't know if I
cliffhanger.
agree that it's supposed to leave you with a cliffhanger, but it is supposed to leave you with questions.
Sure,
Um, I don't think it's supposed to leave you with the same questions you walked in with.
that's true.
And I think that's what The Walking Dead did.
Right.
They were
Well,
like,
that's because
everyone knew
he was
Negan
going
was
to kill
showing up, and
somebody.
everyone knew that Negan killed somebody.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, he does kill somebody, but who?
Right.
That's
But
not the
again-
kind of question you want to be
Right. But
left
then
with.
I'll raise the question: if Walking Dead wasn't a comic book and people didn't know what was going to happen, would people have been as upset? Do you think?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I don't know. See, if people had no idea who Negan was or no idea what was going to happen, I think people would have been like, "Oh no, who'd he kill?" Not what the fuck? Why are we not knowing?
I still think it was a pretty shady
Nah.
tactic.
Yeah. Well. All right. Sorry. Back to Westworld.
Yeah, back to Westworld.
But Mike, what did you think of the finale as a whole? Were you satisfied with the conclusion?
Well, let me say this. Evan, Rachel Wood, right? She plays Dolores.
Right.
She tweeted out before the show came on. She's like, "You'll be standing by the end." I was legitimately standing like 3 feet from my TV watching the ending.
Yeah. I
was
think
amazing.
can't remember if I was standing right at the end, but I stood up a couple of times.
I didn't
Yeah,
stand
no,
because
it
I
was-
had my wife asleep on my shoulder. I don't know how you could sleep. She must have been really tired.
Oh man.
But yeah, I was definitely like, I don't know. I was like mouth open, had to pick my jaw up off the floor a couple times. And
Right.
no, yeah, it was really good.
Eh, and I'm kind of really excited Clementine's back.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
why, I like
totally.
her character.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that Bernard's back. 'Cause
Yes.
I didn't expect. I don't know why. I just didn't really think that he would be back. I thought he played his role, and
Right.
I didn't real. I guess I should have known that it was possible for him to come back because he is a host.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, they shoot other people through the head, right?
Right.
Do they?
Well, I mean, I'm sure people in the park have been shot through the head multiple times.
Yeah. So that's got me wondering, where do they keep their data?
Oh, like the
You
core?
you put a bullet through a hard drive, you're not getting anything off of that.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Um,
I'm sure they've got that like bioskeleton with fluids. They've probably got it
it's
encoded
all
in
in the
like the
cloud,
DNA of the
man. It's all in
robot.
the cloud. It's all in the cloud now.
Right.
Um, but yeah, just I don't know if it was just because us in particular. I don't know if a majority of people sit around and theorize about what's going to happen, but just here talking with you guys over the last, this season and just kind of theorizing about what we think is happening and just having most of that
Yeah.
actually be what happened. Part of me feels really vindicated and like, oh, I figured something out. But another part of me was when the big reveal happened that William is in fact the Man in Black. I don't think it held as much, you know,
It wasn't
shock
as powerful.
value.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, cause when he's telling the story and then he like really hammers it home, like the music swells and blah blah blah, blah, and I didn't get that.
You know what?
Like, I didn't get that.
Uh,
What's in the box
Right.
feeling?
Right. Yeah,
From
no, I get that. And I know for me, I was watching it and I was like, so is he? Like when he said the line, when he was talking about the city and he's like, I've been here before. You've been here before. You even brought me here once.
right,
And at that point I was like, oh yeah, that's William.
right,
And then he goes on and he's like, let me tell you about William. And he's talking about him in the third person. And I'm like, oh, he's not Logan, is he?
right.
And then he talks about Logan in the third person. And I mean, I guess it's nice to not know and have it be a huge surprise.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I liked.
And I like that. And we got the whole origin of the photograph.
Yep.
William drops the photograph and blows away. I don't know how it ends up on Dolores' farm, but whatever.
Yeah.
And Maeve, the whole thing with Maeve and her breakout, bring in
Oh,
Snakeface and Hector,
and all of that being scripted,
right?
being
And
part of the.
right, and
Oh,
I can't even like I didn't take show notes because I was so caught up in it. I didn't want to
yeah.
like, even though I could pause because that's what technology is. I just wanted it to keep moving forward. I didn't want to slow it down. I wanted to kind of go through it. So yeah,
This
I didn't take any notes, so my thoughts are all kind of jumbled up here. I know we're jumping around a lot, but it's just kind of
the latter half of this season really. I have so much respect for the show writers.
mhm,
Like they created something that I think I didn't know was possible. And I'll tell you why. Um we were watching, we were talking about this stuff, and then the next episode it was almost as if they were answering, like
right,
they were like just providing the answers, like someone heard the
right,
conversations. And I know we weren't the only ones having these conversations,
sure,
but it's like somebody heard those conversations and was like, here, and like just showing the answers.
right,
And like when you realize that the entire thing was shot and produced and edited and delivered before the first episode even aired. Like they deliver the entire season to HBO at once.
right.
And then HBO airs it on a weekly basis. So like all of that was pre-planned and written, and
The pacing of the show is, for the first season at least, was, I think, perfect.
it almost seemed like they were actually responding to the viewers.
Right.
And
I have only heard from one of my friends, uh, who said he was getting tired of the day repeating. that he like the first couple of yes, it is. He looking at me like he knows who I'm talking about, so I'm confirming that for him. Um, and he was just getting tired. He didn't like the fact that like the first 2 or 3 episodes like repeated the same day. And I was like, you just give it time, and it ended up by doing that, it really added to the narrative. Um, of of being cyclical and like the whole everything's a big circle and it worked for me. I don't know. He just complains a lot, but
No, I like that. That was almost the constant. Like that was. I guess it's kind of like Groundhog Day. Like that no
right.
matter what happens, he's gonna wake up and it's gonna be the same day again.
Mike, you're awful quiet. We're just making sure you're not asleep.
No, I'm not asleep.
It's
But
hard.
as far
I feel
as
bad for
this,
Mike when we do these things because he's not physically here, and today Skype isn't working, so he can't actually see us. So that's why he might be a little quieter than usual. But Phil, please chime in with any thought that you have.
yeah, no, absolutely. But as far as the day repeating, that's true. But yet it plays off a lot better than The Walking Dead does it. I feel like you're just watching the same day on The Walking Dead too.
Yeah,
But each episode they just jump around different characters.
true.
Like
And
this
I,
whole season of Walking Dead has been like a what 3 4 day span.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
something like that. And
Well, I don't
then
know.
you have
Maybe a
the.
week or
I
two.
mean, I think it's been a little bit longer, but and then you look at something like The Walking Dead, where a lot of criticism this season feels like people are complaining that it's just slowly just trudging along.
Right. Well, and what can they do about that? It's not like they're making these episodes week to week. Let's see how they respond with this episode and make the next one. That's
Right.
what South Park does. But like, that's what I think I've always liked about South Park is how quickly they can respond to stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I mean, it is definitely moving slow, and so I don't know if they create the entire season at once or if they make the first half, go on the break, make the second half.
I don't know.
But yeah, they gotta speed things up.
But back to Westworld.
Yes.
Um just the whole escape, plan, finding out that it was in fact scripted, and what does that mean for her character going forward, cuz she gets out for all intents and purposes, but she ends up coming back
Well,
to find her
he was
daughter.
something that I saw discussed today. Um, and that was, I guess, what does consciousness mean?
Right.
Or sentience?
Mhm.
Um, and I saw people saying that Maeve had a choice. I think they went back and looked through when
And
the
when she was
tablet
on the
was
train?
showing her scripting. Yeah. When the tablet was showing her scripting, the scripting showed when she got to the real world, she did something. There was an action at the end of that. And so she had the choice to either stay on the train and get to the real world or get up and leave.
Mhm.
And she made the choice to get up and leave.
Right.
Now, she also left the bag on the train, the bag that she had. I don't
Of
know
all
if that was like,
the information that was given to her or gathered by the tech guy?
is that, yeah,
That's because he gave that to her when
yeah,
she left.
yeah. She left that on the train.
So, again, we're, you know, going back between Dolores and Maeve.
Hmm.
Maeve acquiring her consciousness this way,
Yep.
and Dolores unlocking her consciousness a different way.
Right.
So let's go and let's talk about the maze a little bit. So I I don't know if I've said this on the show, but I've talked about this with people. I don't know if I've talked about it with you guys. Um, I during the middle of the season, I was looking at the image of the maze
Hmm.
and kind of just it popped up on my Facebook page. So it's kind of I looked at it for, 30, 40 seconds. And in the center there's a little stick figure. It
Right.
looks like, a person. And then I kept thinking about how some of the characters kept telling the man in black the maze is not for you or not
Right.
meant for you.
Right.
So then I was like, well, all this time we're thinking that we're on the outside of this maze trying to find the center, when in fact the center is one of the hosts trying to get its way, trying to find its way out.
Okay.
So, and by doing that, acquiring its consciousness,
Sentience,
sentience,
awareness.
right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing with Dolores hearing the voices in her head, like everyone always thought it was, it was
God.
God
Hmm.
or Bernard slash
Arnold. Yeah.
Arnold. When in
Bernarnold.
fact,
Bernold.
at least this is how I interpreted it at the end when she was sitting there talking to herself. When in fact the voice she was hearing in her head was her, let's call it air quotes, her conscience. Because
Right.
anytime you're thinking as a person, as a human being living in this world, you hear yourself in your head.
Yeah. I,
Robots robots don't do that. But once she figures out what that voice is, and she figures out that it's herself,
yeah.
that's what unlocks her sentience. At least that's how I interpreted it. She found her sense of self.
Did she though?
That's how I interpreted it. Her sitting there
Because
back and talking back and forth with
if it
herself.
goes back to those choices, having the choices, what was her choice?
Why does
Could
it have to be a choice? Why can't it be Maeve did it
because it's
that way
going
and
off
she did it
script.
this way? Hmm, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
And if Maeve went off script by getting off that train and going back, and Dolores, did she go off script, or did Ford? Was that Ford's way of like ending it for himself?
Yeah.
And if she had gone off script, now I guess another theory is, was that actually Ford? Because something else that was mentioned was I think earlier in the season, Ford was talking about the way that you can tell the difference, the way that you can tell if a robot is a robot on the older ones was through their handshake. And he
Yeah.
said that the handshake is just cold and lifeless. And then when Ford shook, whose hand did he shake? He shook somebody's hand at the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was they zoomed in on the handshake. Maybe it was the Man in Black.
I mean, I remember them shaking hands.
And they kind of like focused on the actual handshake,
Mm-hmm.
which there's the thought that maybe that host that was being created in the basement of the house wasn't Teresa. Everyone thought that was Teresa.
Right.
Maybe it was actually Ford.
Yeah. And so maybe he's not,
Maybe who died up on the stage after,
which is something we haven't even talked
toasting.
about yet.
Right.
His assisted suicide.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was talking about. Like,
Right.
if was that what she was scripted to do,
Yeah, I don't know.
or
Oh, you're blowing my mind right now.
I didn't even think about that. And you said something about the handshake, and I just want to bring up really quickly. I actually watched the original Westworld movie from
Yeah.
the 70s for the first time. I'd never seen it before. It was a bad 70s movie, but I wanted to kind of get some context. But the one thing they did say, it was mainly centered on two uh, two guys going and enjoying Westworld, like two
Mhm.
friends. One had been there before, and the other one is their first time, his first
Like
time.
Logan and William.
Right. That's kind of, sort of, kind of. Um, and the one thing, the guy who experienced it before was saying is that you can always tell who they are by their hands. They can never get the designers can't get the hands right. So it was, their hands are a little janky. So that's interesting that I've forgotten about the handshake
Okay.
thing. So that's a little callback, I think, because I was mainly watching the movie to see if there were any like kind of
Similarities.
yeah, but not really. I didn't notice any names that were the same. But one thing I will say is, all this speculation about, and before we even talk about what happened in the season finale, I'll bring this up. All the speculation about there being other parks. In the original movie, they are very open about the fact that there are two other parks.
That's where the speculation came from.
Right. Well, I had never seen the movie, so I didn't know. I
Okay.
didn't know that. So there was Rome World and there was Medieval World,
Mhm.
and they spent a pretty significant time in both. With one guest that was in Medieval World, and another guest that was in Rome World, and then the two guys who were in
Yeah.
Westworld. So moving forward from that to
We saw
We saw the
Samurai World.
samurai. Yeah. Oh my. I was just. I.
Yeah,
That is one of the moments I stood up.
that
I
was
was like,
exciting.
oh yes.
I've also heard from numerous people that there are serious talks going on between the Westworld crew
Mhm.
and the Game of Thrones crew
Now, if they
about
tie that in,
some kind of crossover.
I hope that doesn't happen because that would just totally ruin the mythology of Game of Thrones for me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want it to. I feel like that would cheapen it.
Come on, Sean Bean as a host?
I feel like that would cheapen it. I like.
Tyrion Lannister?
No, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want my Westworld and my Game of Thrones to mix. I like the little call out, the little hand to the kingpin.
Yeah,
That's all I don't do it.
that's enough Game of Thrones.
That's enough Game of
You
Thrones for
don't want
me.
to hear him mention Valyrian steel
No, I
or
don't want it to mix. I do not want them to mix. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what this means. The fact that we have at least one other part confirmed,
yeah,
which I would imagine. And it's not like I can't. Why can't I think of the technician's name? The Asian, the
Felix.
actor Felix. Felix knows about these other parks.
Yeah,
Clearly, because Maeve, when they walk in there, Maeve's like, "What is this?" And he's like, "It's complicated."
right.
So clearly, it's no secret that there are other parks, at least within the company itself.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm super pumped to see where it goes and how many directions I can take it in. And I don't know, is it gonna be like a different? Are we gonna see different parks each season, or because one of my biggest questions is where does it go from here?
I can think of a lot of places where it would go from here.
I see. I'm just there's so much happening. I don't know where it would even start.
The Walking Dead taught me that if you haven't seen the body, they're not dead.
Sure.
And so if that's the case, Man in Black's still alive. I've never seen somebody so happy to get
I was gonna
shot,
say I don't think we were.
but
Did he only get shot in the one time in
in
the
the
arm?
arm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I never thought he was dead.
No, but I mean, he's facing this giant wall of undead
That's right.
hosts.
Zombified hosts.
Yeah. Um yeah, so I think we're going to see him again.
Yeah, definitely.
Stubbs and Elsie?
Who?
Elsie, is that her name?
What character? Tell me what she's.
Elsie is the character.
What does she do?
She was the behavior tech that Bernard
Oh.
maybe killed.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably see her. I hope so, because I don't feel like she got her death. If that was her death, was not very
That
satisfying.
was one of the questions they left us with.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the point I was making here is that they answered all the questions, but they,
Right.
they did leave one unanswered. Yeah, no, so we'll see Man in Black for sure. I think you don't just show us hosts training for a new park and then not give us that new park.
Right.
So I think we're definitely going to see that. But it does give a lot more confirmation, I guess.
Right.
Brings us closer to confirmation about the characters that we were seeing originally
Mm.
with like the helmets,
Mhm.
which that look more like Viking or
Right.
something like that.
So let me ask you this: Do you think there are other? I mean, as far as Westworld, the robots that became sentient, the hosts that became sentient, there's only two, correct? The Maeve that we think has sentience, and Dolores that we think has sentience, and everybody else is kind of following their lead.
Bernard?
Well, do you think he's sentient?
I don't know.
I don't think he is.
I I really think only Dolores is at this point 'cause she's the only one that's hurt herself in her head.
True. Okay. Yeah.
We don't know if Maeve hurt herself or not.
Right. But she does seem to be acting.
She went off script.
She went off script. Right. So
Unless that was the script.
right.
And if that's the
So
case,
my
she
next
got played like a fiddle.
my
But
next question is, we've had this whole storyline of Bernard slash God damn Arnold wanted
We'll just call him
wanted to
Bernarnold.
Bernarnold, yes, Bernarnold wanted to wanted the parks not to open. They wanted to destroy the park.
Mhm.
Didn't was proving this theory of his that they shouldn't open the parks. That was all during the assumption there was only one park. So since there are multiple parks, do you think he set up this maze test for other hosts in each of the parks? So is there a Dolores in the samurai world? Is there a Dolores in the medieval world? Is there a Dolores character, someone that's on the path to finding their sentience in each of the parks? Because he didn't know who or where it
Right.
would happen necessarily. If he only did with Dolores, that's one thing. But I'm curious to see if there are other robots on the path to finding sentience in other parks.
I don't know that Bernarnold had anything to do with the other parks.
Yeah,
That
maybe
could have
they
been a
didn't. Maybe
Delos
they didn't
thing.
come off. Yeah, maybe they didn't
And
come off. Come out until after he died.
as I mean, we found out there that William bought
Right.
or bought the parks.
Right. Delos was in the original movie too. So there.
Were they?
Yeah.
But that was the company that
Yeah.
William and Logan were both from.
Mm. That
So
was the company
Yeah,
that owned it in the
yeah,
original.
I think it started out as just Westworld, and then after Delos took over is when maybe the other parks
they
opened up.
Yeah,
expanded,
That's
that's
my
right?
yeah.
guess, at least.
So that would have been a Ford thing, unless
Right. No, yeah, I think you're right.
that's what they were working on with that information.
I don't know.
Because Westworld, I think they were trying to imply that it was almost going bankrupt before they got the help from Delos.
Right,
Mm,
So there's no
right.
way they'd be operating multiple parks.
right.
That it was about to close by itself. I don't know. Seeing the Man in Black, well, William, talking about hating the fact that the guest is always guaranteed to win and set up to win.
Mm,
Um, that really got me to thinking, like, without actually killing the guest, what would it look like to let the guest lose? Or to make the guest lose.
right. I don't think that's what he was looking for. I think he was looking to.
Looking to potentially die
Yeah,
if
he is a complete and total sociopath.
yeah.
He is. He's a high functioning
So
sociopath.
it would mean picking your difficulty level before you go in, and
Right.
if you pick veteran or extreme or whatever
Right.
hardcore mode, you d- you don't respawn.
Right. No respawns. No continues. No extra lives. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I think that I'm curious, like his motivation behind that. Why? Because he was just tired of.
Winning.
Yeah, I
He
don't
was
know.
I mean, I guess it would feel like, you're constantly playing a game with people that are letting you win.
Mm-hmm.
Games aren't fun when, you know. I mean, it's like playing Black Ops with a bunch of bots on rookie mode
No.
and it just you're like, yeah, it, I just went 50-0. It's boring.
Yeah. During the course of the season, I haven't really read. I've been trying to kind of keep ignorant. uh, I think. I mean, I've read a couple of theories here and there, um, but I haven't read any of the reviews. But I know I've heard that it's been doing very well. So I'm hoping that all this goodwill that they're building, they really keep moving forward for the second season.
I hope so.
And there's always the sophomore slump worry, and you can because this was really tidy, really well wrapped up first season, and it leaves you with questions. But I was, it wasn't a cliffhanger for a cliffhanger's sake.
Look at who's behind it though. I think we're gonna get a good second season.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've
They
got
got a lot of good people.
Jonathan Nolan,
Yeah, JJ.
J.J. Abrams. Which I mean, if you've got one Nolan, you kind of have both of them.
Right.
What like even the Christopher Nolan directed Inception,
Dark Knight. See the
Memento. Did he?
Yeah, he did Memento. Yeah,
Um, Interstellar,
yeah.
but his brother was also involved in,
Oh,
I
sure.
think, all of those.
I'm sure partly in some way.
So either way, yeah, there's
You got a
three
good brain
really
trust
big
there.
names that are
So, I mean, just as a season overall, I'm giving it 2 gigantic thumbs up and can't wait for the second season.
definitely. I don't want to have to wait a year though.
Right.
Yeah, that wait's gonna be really hard.
I've
Yeah.
I've been doing it. Like I got caught up on Game of Thrones and now I'm waiting.
Well,
And then
we'll have Game of Thrones here again before you know it, and then
yeah, I got caught up on Silicon Valley and now I'm waiting. Which that's a completely different show. It's
yeah.
still funny, but
Yeah.
that's all it is. It's just funny.
All right. Well, let's move on
Let's do.
to this past episode of The Walking Dead. Sing Me a Song is what the episode was called.
Okay.
Um, another hour and a half long episode, which I know some people that I know were complaining about the hour and a half episodes because why do they need to be an hour and a half and they're too long and they got bored and but think the last hour and a half episode we had was season episode 4,
That's yeah. Maybe.
and so they're not doing it every time, but I really liked this episode. The last couple episodes have been kind of people. I kind of agree, but have been a little slow and don't really seem to be moving things forward at any kind of pace. Like a, you don't know. Come watching Westworld, everything's happening so quickly and everything's moving at a breakneck speed, and going to Walking Dead, which kind of slowly dragged
Yeah.
its undead back leg behind it, and slow zombie walk.
I felt better about this one.
Oh yeah,
But it was definitely still
this is one of my favorite.
on its own pace.
Yeah, one of the better episodes this season, I thought, just because of, you know, I was waiting for this episode to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so in the very beginning, like the opening scene, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not. Uh, it was Michonne walking on the highway, whistling like "Farmer in the Dell" or whatever nursery rhyme she was whistling, and then all of a sudden the two walkers come and walk right behind her on the camera's facing her and the walkers are behind her, and we got this frame that's almost identical to when we first met her, when she had the two zombies chained up with the arms cut off. It was just her with two zombies walking behind her, which I thought gave me goosebumps because I was like, oh, that it just was really cool, a really cool shot.
Right.
So much so that I thought that's what she's doing. I thought she was trying to get some pet zombies back, but she just dispatched
Then
them
we
pretty
later saw
violently.
what she was actually doing, which was just as brilliant.
Right. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything to say about this episode. I've been kind of monopolizing the microphone, so
I don't know. I took notes, but I don't have them. I know that in those notes, I just like near the end, I was thinking, all right, let me make a list of what actually happened this episode. Because a lot of times they try to make you think that a lot happened, but if you try to make the list, it's like, oh, I have 3 things.
I think a lot
So
happened this
in this
episode.
one, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot did happen. Um, the part, the couple parts that I loved was just how Negan responded to everything. The first part when he was like, "Don't shatter my image of you."
Oh, we're not even. You're jumping too far ahead.
Am I too far ahead? Okay. All
Um,
right. I'll sit back and wait.
one question I had about this episode is where the hell did Jesus go? I wish they would have like shown us Jesus slinking around, or because he was kind of there and then gone, and then at the end he was there again.
Yeah.
But Carl basically tricked him, jumping out of the back of the truck, and just kind of was like, "See ya."
See ya.
So I thought that was really cool. And so we get Carl getting to the compound. He's in the back of the truck with the M16 or whatever gun he had, and just basically just opens fire on the first people who comes in the truck, and
Right.
just demands He's like, I want to, I only want Negan, and nobody else has to die. And I think, from the first episode, I think Negan already had a pretty, for him, anyways, a pretty high opinion of Carl. Anyways, but
Well, yeah, because
this,
he watched Carl tell his dad, "Just do it."
you're right. And, he obviously, you know, doesn't kill Negan. And then they go on this amazing journey together of like getting to know one another better, basically, which I thought I couldn't wait for because this in the comic book, it's just so funny and kind of and sickly heartwarming.
Right.
And it's really bizarre. He's starts him on this tour, and I forget where he takes him first, or he
He
takes him in front of
took
the
him
group.
inside, yeah, in front of the
Yeah,
group. They all knelt down. He was like, "Fresh vegetables for everybody," and then
right.
they're all like happy. And he turns around and he goes, "They're still kneeling."
It's basically, look how cool this is.
Yeah, as you were. And then you see Carl look at that, and like it's almost like he got the spark, like the spark in his eye.
Mm,
Like he's like, so this is leadership.
I don't know if I would go that
I,
far.
no, I saw it. I don't
His
know.
version of leadership,
I mean, all he's had to go off of is his dad's example,
right?
which I guess is, a little bit more, the moral compass is pointed a little more north with Rick's example, but
Right.
like, I think he saw a different example of it. And it almost, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just
I don't think it was
nothing, but I
admiration.
saw a look of fascination on his
Well,
face.
I'll take fascination. I don't think it was
So
admiration.
either that was directed and he's a really good actor, or it was just a look.
Right. Um, and then he took Carl to see his wives, his harem
Mhm.
of women, which we kind of had a glimpse of a little bit of before. Um, and we saw that one of his wives apparently had, because basically Negan has taken these women from whoever else they were with prior to this. Some of
Sort
them.
of.
Some of them had
A lot of
husbands,
I
and
think
some of
these
them had
women offered themselves to him in exchange
yeah,
for letting their husbands live.
true, but that's not really
But then once they do that, they become his wives.
right.
And when they become his wives,
They can't cheat on
they
them.
can't cheat on him. Yeah.
So,
Which I mean, seeing Mark was his name
yeah,
Mark?
oh, yeah, yeah.
Get the iron?
Right, which, obviously now for people who don't read the
Now
comics,
they
now
know
they
what
know
happened
what
to
happened
Dwight.
to Dwight.
Yep.
Because we've met Dwight and his wife or significant other before. Um, but yeah, that whole scene I thought was really cool that, he didn't basically he's, when he's talking to Daryl or shoot, his
Dwight?
the wife, Dwight's wife.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name. Um, basically, she has the big set of balls on her first of all, because she just talks to him
Right.
kind of however the hell she wants to.
Yep.
Um, and I forget the exact exchange, but basically Negan looks at her and he's like, "Go easy on," or she says, "Go easy on her," and he looks at her and is like, "Have I ever hit any of you?" And she's like,
Right.
"No."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, he's not, apparently to women at least, he's not a complete and total asshole. Um, but basically gets her to flip on Mark, if that's what we think his name is.
Mhm.
Um, and then we go, and ultimately he gets half of his face burned off because that's the punishment for cheating, apparently.
Right.
Um, all the while Carl's following behind him holding Lucille. Um, just kind of taking it all in. And then he takes, or before the whole iron thing happens, he takes him up to like his room, I guess, and makes him take off the eye patch.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, "I wanna see that. That is so bad." Or I think he's like, "That is so disgusting." And, Carl starts crying.
Yeah, and then like almost you see his soft side, I would as soft a side as Negan has, because he's
Yeah,
like, "Oh man, I forget that you're just a kid," and he apologizes and he sympathizes and he like encourages you, like, "I wouldn't hide that. You are a badass. I would not, you
right,
know,
right.
don't hide what you know."
I mean, I still, I don't know. Going back to earlier when he said that, don't shatter my image of you.
Right when he
That
got
was before
scared.
they even walked in the building. Right
Right,
after he got off the truck, and Negan, when Carl was like, "What are you gonna do to me?" And Negan's like, "Don't shatter my image of you.
right,
You are a badass kid.
right.
You just killed two of my men, or something." Um,
But he keeps talking about how it has to, there has to be a punishment.
right, right.
But
And now he's in Alexandria holding Carl's sister,
well, um,
and again being soft.
yeah,
The
he
hell's
did
that all
seem.
about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. He's so weird. He has this whole back and forth dichotomy that I can't. In
Yeah,
this episode, anyways, because before we've only seen him as just pure evil.
yeah. Mike, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All
Just
right.
listening to you guys. I mean, he even when he's being nice, he's still evil. I mean, what about that whole conversation with the poor girl in Carl's house? I forget her name.
Oh, Olivia.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that was pretty asshole.
I know he's still evil, and he's always going to be evil.
Right,
But I don't know. It was kind of interesting seeing a soft side.
right. And Olivia, I like her.
Yeah.
She just slapped him across the face. That was
He's like,
I did not see that coming. That was
I am
pretty
about
awesome.
50% more into you now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Um, and then I mean, we haven't even talked about, Rosita going off to get her bullet made
Right.
and all the, awful, hurtful things she said to
She's a bitch.
yeah, but I mean, she got her way.
I guess she kind of had a point, though.
I think he's come a long way from
He has come a long way, but she was just like, I, I want to kill the person that stopped us from getting killed.
right.
I
And
mean, I want to kill the person that killed the person that stopped us from getting killed. I think it was
yeah,
weird roundabout.
right. And she seems fully willing to take the consequences, but doesn't necessarily mean the punishment's going to fall on her, which I think
Right.
that's what they said as well. Um, and then you have Father Gabriel and
Oh my gosh.
what's his name out on their
Spencer.
yeah, out on their little drive, and Father Gabriel's growing on me too.
Yeah.
He's like,
That
what did
doesn't
he?
make you a sinner.
Yeah, it doesn't make you a
That
sinner.
just makes you a shitty
It
person.
just makes you a colossal shit.
A colossal shit.
I believe is
Yeah.
what he said. But yeah, that was I really like that moment. That was really good character development because he is Father Gabriel. I keep up until this season, I kind of forgot he was there.
I didn't forget he was there, but he's like the kind of person that I would never let my guard down around because he just seems like, I don't know. He just has always seemed and still kind of has that look like he will screw you over the first chance he gets.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
So
don't, again, I'm sure that's, the character, but it seems like, almost seems like the same amount of fake
right,
as Carol's, Susie Homemaker
right.
person
So one quick
personality.
thing I want to ask you guys is, what did you think about the makeup for Carl's eye?
Mm,
I was very disappointed.
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah,
It,
I was pretty disappointed.
I don't.
I They should have used CGI because I mean it was not a hole. It should have been a hole.
Right. I mean, even in the I mean, in the comic book, I know, when he gets the hole blown in his head, but in the show, they had a hole in his eye. So there was a hole, and it just looks like there's a patch, and it just wasn't done very well. It kind of took me out of it, and I was kind of disappointed. I got over it quickly,
Well,
but
here's the other thing. Have you guys ever seen somebody that's missing an eye?
yeah, I have.
Well, but are
Eventually,
you
that
talking?
socket closes over, and
Right,
it just becomes skin with a tiny little dimple
right.
or divot.
But it hasn't been that long.
It's been a while.
Not that long.
I mean, I
But
guess if we're
but
talking
that
Walking Dead years, it's been like 3 weeks.
He still
But
had it bandaged.
go on, Mike.
I was gonna say, but those are people who lose eyes generally not to traumatic experience.
Right.
Like his eye got blown out.
His yeah,
It's
the
gonna
whole
be a
side of
bigger
his
hole.
head should have been dimpled or dented or but whatever. It's a small gripe, but I was disappointed. I didn't know what they were gonna do, but I was kind of disappointed in the what they ended up going with. But I'll get over it. It's not
Yeah,
that big a deal. And then you have what's his name, Spencer,
Spencer. Yep.
finding the hunter walker in the tree stand,
Yeah,
with the note that he found that was written in Latin. I tried to pause it and look at it, and I was like, I couldn't read it, and and now I don't feel so bad knowing that it was in Latin.
that's what the note was. Okay.
Yeah, and
He
then
said it was something that his mom taught him, or oh, Latin classes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay, that makes sense. So his mom made him take all these Latin classes when he was in school,
right.
and it was now paying off because that was a list of all these
All the
caches,
supplies he had, yeah,
supply caches.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then you have Rick and the other brown hair, blue eyed character,
Aaron.
Aaron. I can't the two of them. I get them
That's
so mixed up because they're
that. Yeah,
very
he's the recruiter.
right. And so and they go and find apparently this compound and hopefully
This houseboat full of supplies
full
that's
of guns
surrounded
and
by
yeah, surrounded by a
a
moat of
moat.
undead. So I'm interested to see how that's gonna go. Um, but yeah, this I mean, so a lot happened in this hour and a half.
Yeah,
It's moving forward. I can't remember what the next week preview was.
I didn't see it.
No,
No,
Mike, do you remember?
that wasn't on my version of the episode.
No, I don't think I watched it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I'm hoping at some
Because
point.
as soon as
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead, sorry. I was saying as soon as that episode was over, I flipped over to Westworld like so quick.
So hopefully we go back to the kingdom at some point. I'd love to see what's going on with everybody. That's what I hate about everybody being so split up.
Yeah,
Um, but we have to get the whole, Negan sitting on the porch with Carl and the baby
Judith.
and
Yep.
Judith. We have to get that resolved. Um, and what does it mean for the group if Rick gets a hold of this cache of weapons and will there be a secret stash of weapons that they'll have to use at to their advantage at some point in the future? Will Rosita, you know, they got back to the compound at the end of the episode and their trucks were there
Yeah, saw
and
that everyone's already there.
she's walking around with this loaded gun in her pocket that she's not supposed to have with one bullet.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe I think too much about the creation of these shows, but I think there's no way she would just walk up and kill him because
Because
that
story.
that's their source of
Right.
story, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's not
obviously,
gonna happen
yeah, I mean,
anytime
and
soon.
that's the thing that sucks because I know what's gonna happen for the most part, and I kind of wish I didn't,
Hmm.
but that's because I think that's what made Westworld so interesting because I had no idea what was gonna happen from week to week. But for the most part, I have a pretty good outline of where things are gonna go.
So I guess talking about that, knowing the comics,
Well, I would say if you haven't read the comics and you don't want spoilers for what may or may not happen on the show before, I would say stop listening now. Thank you for listening.
well, I'm not gonna dig too deep into the comics, but I wanted to talk about what I read today,
Okay.
and that was I don't remember if it was called Image Plus or Series Plus. Um, it's a comic magazine, and each issue, the first issue I saw started in July, of this year. Each issue has a short from Robert Kirkman.
Like a comic strip?
No, it's like an entire comic book, but it's it's like, I don't know. It's like a 5-page
Okay.
comic book called Here's Negan, and it's Negan's backstory
From from when? Like
from
starting when?
from shortly before the turn.
Oh, so it hasn't happened yet. He's
No,
real
Negan's like
world.
a high school coach
What?
and still just as foul mouthed, um, screwing around on his wife. Like he's got
Well, don't
this.
spoil it for me because I want
Well,
to read it.
you need to read it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna definitely have to check that out. I had no idea that was even out there.
I put them in the drive.
Okay, cool.
So,
Yeah.
Mike, you're welcome to check those out too. You'll need to get a digital comic reader. There's some free ones out there.
I'm sure you can open it in Adobe, can't you?
I will
No,
definitely check that out.
it's a .cbr file.
Oh,
You got to get a special reader.
screw that. Yeah,
So
that's cool.
you're not gonna read it?
No, I will. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so that one is interesting. It kind of provides a little bit of insight on Negan and what made him just become the hard ass that he is.
Yeah. Another thing that happened at the very end, somebody, passing the note to Daryl, saying, like, handed him.
Go now.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
lock picking tools.
Yeah. It was a match
or
and
a
a
match.
key.
Oh, was it a key?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell what it was. But yeah, so apparently that breakout, that's now I remember. The breakout of Daryl is going to be the next episode. And who do we think is helping him? Is it the wife? Is it like I can't other than because
Negan's not there.
she was the one that talked to him in his cell, right?
Yeah, she was the one that said, the last time you saw us and we took your stuff,
Right.
I said, I'm sorry. You said you're gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be her. A little bit of comic insight. Might be Dwight.
Yeah. That's another thing I was thinking too. And another thing about speaking of Daryl, Mike, I don't know if you noticed this, but when Carl came up to meet Negan's wives, somebody was carrying a tray of fruit, like grapes and whatever. And at some point, either Carl handed it to Daryl or Daryl handed it to Carl.
Daryl was carrying it and he handed it to Carl.
Okay, so when that exchange happened, it looked to me like Daryl leaned in and whispered something to Carl, or Carl leaned in and whispered something to Daryl. Did anybody else pick up on that, or is that just me?
I did not see that.
I don't recall paying attention to that.
Okay, it looked like it to me, but I may be crazy. I have no idea. But yeah, I'm hoping there's something going on because I was talking to you about this before, Mike. Have you heard about the Morse code theory that goes along with Daryl and Rick?
Oh, I think you're saying about him like blinking Morse code.
Right. Yeah, so in the episode where Negan comes to the compound for the first time, there's a more inside the house where Rick and Michonne live. There's a big poster that's Morse code, like showing the dots and dashes.
Yeah, the Morse code alphabet.
Morse code alphabet. That poster, however, is incorrect. Fun fact: not the correct dots and dashes for a few of the letters. They're switched around. But
Why would they do that?
that's just the way the poster's made. You can buy the poster online and it's wrong.
Is it a Walking Dead
No,
poster?
it's just a Morse code
Okay.
poster.
All right.
I don't think it's a Walking Dead poster. Anyways, so when Negan brings Daryl to the compound, there's a really long, like, camera focused on the fact that Daryl and Rick are staring at each other for an excessive amount of time, and Daryl is like kind of catching his gaze and looking down, catching his gaze and blinking a lot. And a lot of people just attribute that to him being held captive for so long and being beaten down and ashamed. But some people out there are thinking that he is blinking Morse code to Rick. And some people have gone like on Reddit threads and stuff like that have gone and they think they've, determined what he's blinking. And a lot of consensus is a lot of people have come up with the same thing. And he's blinking out I east, like trying to tell Rick that he's east of where they are, trying to tell Rick where to try to look for the compound. So I thought that was interesting. And that episode, it's just too coincidental that in that episode you get a really good shot of that poster and this whole
Right.
in the really long, you know, camera work between Daryl and Rick.
Kind of indicating that that whole group is studying Morse code
Right.
or has been studying Morse code. Well, I guess not the whole group, but opening that door
Yeah.
to see that, yeah, maybe they are all studying the same thing, and that's how they can communicate in times like this.
Right.
But they haven't. I don't know. They haven't done that. We have to remember that there's a lot of stuff that goes on off camera,
Right.
I guess.
Sure. But yeah, so next week is the mid-season finale.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was 7. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, next week is gonna be a good hopefully gonna be a good one. And I mean, there's gonna be a cliffhanger, so nobody freak out, get your panties in the twist. Um, but I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully it'll start the second half. Because usually after the second half starts going, it picks up speed really really quickly. So hopefully we'll get that momentum moving in this next episode, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. What do we have during the break?
During the break,
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. Like shows, I don't know. I watch a lot of stuff. You guys don't watch as much as I do.
Is Fear the Walking Dead on during that break?
No, I doubt. I don't think so.
No.
So maybe there won't be a few episodes here every week like it was before, but
We're gonna have to come up with stuff to talk
we're gonna
about.
actually have to figure out something to talk about. You guys might actually have to start coming up with topics, you slackers.
I think I'll have some topics after Christmas.
All right. All right. Well, Mike, you have anything else to say before we cut this episode off?
No, no, I'm good.
All right. Gordy,
I remembered something
closing
else I did
thoughts?
this week.
Oh God, what did you do?
I filmed a music video.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty big.
Who was the band?
It was some friends of mine. The band that I did the other music
Right.
video for.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a stripped down acoustic version of one of their songs that was just piano, acoustic guitar, and the two of them singing. Um, yeah, and the video was them in a dark, empty room with the piano wrapped in Christmas lights, and that was the only light source for the whole thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was cool.
Very good.
That must have been a really expensive camera.
No, it was my T3i, my little Canon.
Really? And it accepted that as the only light source?
I had to rent a lens with a really, really fast aperture.
Ah,
So, yeah, it was a f1.4 lens.
Nerds.
So, yeah, that allowed enough light in that it gave me a good picture. So, that was a fun one. I know that had absolutely nothing to do with the stuff that we've talked about tonight, but
There you go.
that was my ADHD brain just kicking in saying, "Oh, hey, forgot about something."
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening, and hopefully leave us some comments and let us know your theories about Westworld going forward, or Walking Dead, or what you think is gonna happen. We have made the switch over to YouTube
Yep.
exclusively now. Is that correct?
Yep.
So if you go onto YouTube and search cross-platform XP, I type it in all one word. Or I don't know, does it work just as well with spaces in it?
I've been typing cross-platform podcast, and that's been bringing up the videos, and then we can get to the channel from there.
Okay.
because there's no actual username yet. You got to be kind of
Yeah,
established in
yeah.
YouTube and have a certain number of views and a certain number of
So if you want to be able
subscribers.
to find the podcast easier, start giving us some views. Share it with your
Yeah,
friends.
you can find us on our Facebook, and we'll have links to it from there.
If I remember to do that, yes, that is correct. I
I'll,
think I forgot to do that for episode
I'll
5, so I'll do that after
yeah.
the show. But yeah, well, thanks a lot for joining us, guys. And for me, that one, Heath.
Gordy Mills.
And Mike, I'm yours.
And we'll see you later.